My name is Dorothy Hale, and at 79 years old, I learned something heartbreaking about aging. Losing independence hurts. But losing your place inside your own family hurts far more. After my stroke, my son insisted I move into his beautiful suburban home so he and his wife could take care of me. At first, I felt grateful, safe, loved. I truly believed my family was protecting me during the most vulnerable season of my life. Then slowly, I started noticing something terrifying. I wasn't being treated like a mother anymore. I was being managed like an inconvenience. Before I tell you how moving into my son's home nearly destroyed my sense of dignity and self-worth, make sure to subscribe. Because this story taught me something painful. Sometimes people can provide for your physical needs while quietly starving you emotionally. I spent most of my life in Cincinnati with my husband Frank. 49 years of marriage. 49 years of routines, traditions, arguments, laughter, and ordinary moments that slowly become the architecture of a shared life. Frank worked as a postal carrier. I taught elementary school music. We weren't wealthy, but we built stability carefully. Every paycheck mattered. Every repair mattered. Every sacrifice mattered. And honestly, I loved that life. Simple dinners, neighborhood friendships, gardening on weekends, church every Sunday. The kind of life modern people often describe as boring, without realizing how precious peace actually becomes later in life. We had one son, Nathan, and from the moment he was born, Frank adored him completely. Maybe too completely. Nathan grew up intelligent, charming, and ambitious. The kind of child adults praised constantly. Teachers loved him. Coaches admired him. Relatives bragged about him. And somewhere along the way, our family quietly organized itself around Nathan's future. Private tutoring, sports travel, college prep. Everything revolved around giving him opportunities. Frank used to say, "One day Nate's going to have a life bigger than ours." And he did. Corporate consulting, luxury home, beautiful wife, private schools for the grandchildren, the polished version of success parents dream about. Frank died 6 years ago. Massive heart attack while mowing the lawn. One ordinary afternoon. Then suddenly, widowhood. People never explain how disorienting widowhood feels after decades of marriage. You don't simply lose companionship. You lose rhythm, witness, continuity. The person who remembered every version of you disappears. And afterward, the silence inside the house feels emotionally violent. Still, I managed. For a while, I joined book clubs, volunteered, maintained friendships, protected my routines carefully. Because routines become survival after grief. Then came the stroke. Not catastrophic, but enough to affect mobility and speech temporarily. Doctors remained optimistic about recovery, but Nathan panicked immediately. "Mom, you can't stay alone anymore," he insisted. At first, I resisted strongly. I loved my house, my independence, my routines. But eventually, fear wears elderly people down emotionally. Fear of falling again. Fear of becoming helpless alone. Fear of burdening others after an emergency. So finally, I agreed to move into Nathan's home temporarily. Temporary. That word always matters later. At first, everything seemed wonderful. Nathan converted the downstairs office into a bedroom for me. My daughter-in-law Claire bought soft blankets and family photographs. The grandchildren hugged me constantly. Honestly, the attention felt comforting after months of lonely recovery. But gradually, things started changing. Subtly, almost invisibly. Conversations about me started happening around me instead of with me. Medication schedules, doctor appointments, physical therapy, household routines. Everyone spoke gently, politely, but increasingly, like I wasn't fully capable of participating in decisions anymore. One evening during dinner, I tried telling a story about Frank. Halfway through, Claire interrupted softly. "Dorothy, you already told us that yesterday." The table went silent. I laughed awkwardly. But inside, something hurt deeply, because suddenly I realized I was becoming old in their eyes. Not Dorothy. Old by that distinction matters more than younger people understand. Then came the routines. Breakfast exactly at 7:30, medication at precise times. Limited driving discussions. Careful supervision. At first, I interpreted it as concern. Then slowly, it started feeling like control. Not cruel control. Efficient control. Which honestly felt worse sometimes. One afternoon, I overheard Claire speaking to Nathan privately in the kitchen. "She can't live independently again," Claire whispered. Nathan sighed heavily. "I know. No interesting word. Nobody had asked what I wanted. Nobody." My future quietly became a discussion they already solved emotionally without me. That realization terrified me. Then things became more humiliating. Nathan took over my banking to simplify things. Claire reorganized my belongings repeatedly without asking. Family outings happened without inviting me because they assumed I'd be too tired. And gradually, my world shrank smaller and smaller inside that beautiful house. That's another painful truth about aging. Dependence often arrives disguised as protection. One morning, I attempted making coffee independently before everyone woke up. Simple thing. Normal thing. I accidentally dropped a ceramic mug because my left hand still shook occasionally after the stroke. The mug shattered loudly. Claire rushed downstairs immediately. And the look on her face. God, not concern. Frustration. Real frustration. "Dorothy, you could have seriously hurt yourself," she snapped. I apologized instantly. Over a broken mug. Inside what was supposed to feel like home. That moment stayed with me for weeks afterward. Because suddenly I understood something devastating. I no longer felt safe making mistakes inside my own family. Then came the worst moment of all. One evening, after everyone assumed I'd gone to bed, I overheard my grandson asking innocently, "How long is Grandma staying here?" Silence. Then Claire answered quietly, "We don't know yet." The way she said it, like discussing weather delays. Temporary inconvenience. Not family. That night, I cried silently into my pillow for hours. Not because anyone physically mistreated me, because emotionally, I started disappearing. People often imagine elder neglect as abandonment. Sometimes it looks much softer than that. Sometimes it looks like being included physically while excluded emotionally. Then came the financial conversations. Nathan suggested selling my house since it was sitting empty. At first, the argument sounded practical: maintenance costs, property taxes, safety concerns. But deep down, I knew selling the house meant surrendering the final piece of independent identity I still possessed. I resisted immediately. Nathan became frustrated. "Mom, you're being unrealistic." Realistic. There's that word again. Families use it constantly when elderly people resist losing autonomy. Then one afternoon, while organizing paperwork alone, I discovered something horrifying. Nathan and Claire had already met privately with a realtor weeks earlier. Without telling me, my house wasn't simply a future discussion. Plans were already moving forward. I physically shook reading the paperwork. Not from anger, from grief. Because suddenly I realized my life had become a logistical project everyone else was managing. That evening, I confronted Nathan directly. I still remember every detail. Rain tapping against kitchen windows. The grandchildren upstairs watching television. My son standing frozen beside the counter while I held the realtor documents in trembling hands. "You were going to sell my house without even discussing it honestly," I whispered. Nathan looked exhausted immediately. Not cruel. Exhausted. "Mom, we're trying to help." Help. Interesting how often control hides behind that word. Then, finally, after months of emotional pressure, something inside me broke open. "I don't need my life managed," I said softly. "I need to feel human again." Silence filled the kitchen instantly, and for the first time, Nathan started crying. Real crying. Not defensive crying. Ashamed crying. "I'm scared all the time," he admitted. "Every phone call makes me think you're dead." That sentence changed everything, because underneath all the control was fear. Not malice. Fear. Fear of losing another parent after Frank. Fear of responsibility. Fear of failing me. And somewhere along the way, fear slowly transformed into overprotection. Overprotection became control. And control quietly became emotional suffocation. Claire cried too eventually. Apparently, she felt trapped between compassion and exhaustion for months. Nobody inside that house actually knew how to discuss caregiving honestly. So everyone defaulted to logistics instead of emotions. That realization softened something inside me. Not completely, but enough. Over the following months, everything changed slowly. Painfully honestly. Nathan returned financial control fully to me. I resumed physical therapy aggressively. I bought a small condominium near my old neighborhood instead of selling my house immediately. Most importantly, we started speaking truthfully instead of performing perfect family roles. Today, I live independently again. Not perfectly independently, but meaningfully. Nathan visits every Sunday. Claire and I garden together occasionally. The grandchildren stay overnight sometimes. And strangely enough, our relationship became healthier only after everyone admitted how overwhelmed they truly were. Before Frank died, he once told me, the difference between caring for someone and controlling them is whether their dignity survives the process. I think about that sentence constantly now. Have you ever felt emotionally invisible while people insisted they were helping you? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Because sometimes the greatest human need isn't safety, it's dignity.